about a little heel turn?
If you are a die-hard fan of pro wrestling, you might have come across those insider terms like heels, faces, and backstage. But can you recall if you've ever heard those terms on WWE television? Most of you probably haven't heard them because reportedly WWE Chairman Vince McMahon has banned commentators and even superstars from using such terms. I'm Kevin, and here are 5 words you're most likely not going to hear on WWE commentary. Number 5. Heels and faces. As we've mentioned before, heels or faces are words you won't hear in WWE from the wrestlers or even the commentators. If you aren't aware, fan favorites usually get the term of faces or baby faces, and the heels are usually the villains that you see on screen. Although the dynamic of between heels and villains are followed throughout a match and a storyline, WWE Chairman Vince McMahon doesn't prefer categorizing his wrestlers as heels or faces or good guys and bad guys, as they are all termed WWE Superstars. Number 4. Feuds. When WWE Superstars clash with one another, they are often said to be engaging in a rivalry or settling a personal issue. One word that you will not hear used to describe this situation, though, is feud, as McMahon is reportedly not a fan of the term. The exact reasoning behind the dislike of the word is unclear. McMahon's chosen alternative for the word feud would appear to be the term rivalry, which comes up quite a bit. Indeed, the WWE Network launched a series several years ago dubbing the greatest feuds simply rivalries. The fact that Raw and SmackDown announcers are instructed to say heated rivalries as opposed to feuds is unlikely to ruin anyone's viewing experience. But McMahon's dislike for the term is still a peculiar one. But also, it's his show. He owns the show. People forget that part. He should be able to call the shots on something like this, right? Number 3. Hospital. WWE Clash of Champions 2020 saw Drew McIntyre defeat Randy Orton in an ambulance match to retain the WWE Championship. However, per McMahon's reported order, that ambulance was never bound for a hospital. Instead, the announcers have long been instructed to talk about the performers being transported to a local medical facility. Ironically, McMahon was involved in several hospital-based segments during the Attitude Era. Most of these involve Stone Cold Steve Austin and Mankind and Mr. Socko. There has been some suggestion over the years that McMahon was forced to adapt to this rule in order to prevent fans from actually contacting hospitals to ask about the well-being of their favorite superstars. And that makes sense. Some of you out there would camp out in front of a hospital to try and get an autograph. You know who you are. Number 2. Factions. WWE has seen a number of factions form in recent years, like the Hurt Business, the Bloodline, Imperium, Legado del Fantasma, just to name a few. However, you will not hear these groups referred to as a faction. This is naturally by order of Vince McMahon. Factions have a rich history in pro wrestling, with such classic acts as the Four Horsemen, D-Generation X, and the NWO, having profound impacts on the industry. McMahon, however, is just simply not a fan of the term faction, and these teams are generally referred to just as groups. If this is the one that really aggravates you, I think you're reaching for anything to be angry at the WWE. I'm so mad, and I'm directing my anger in the general Stamford, Connecticut area. Number 1. Belts or titles. According to numerous reports over the years, WWE does not have belts or straps. They have championships, and their superstars compete for championships and championship opportunities, which means more often than not, you'll not be hearing the phrases title shot or belt on WWE TV. This has loosened up in the past few years, with Becky Lynch referring to herself as Becky Two Belts or Bayley calling herself Bayley Dos Straps, but for the most part, commentators won't mention it. It may seem nonsensical, but McMahon has a vision for how he sees the company, the one he created, and ultimately has the final word on these types of things. This is our list today. Don't forget to subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling on YouTube for more content, plus exclusive interviews and much, much more. Also, turn those notifications on so you know when we're dropping fresh videos. Jump into the comments below and tell us what is your least favorite wrestling term.